Welcome. My name is Lisa Mann-Murata, and I'm the chair of Compassionate Ridgefield's Mental Health Group. And I'm here to present to you a new program of ours, Stress Busters, How Ridgefield Copes. I think it's safe to say that we're all feeling an unusually high level of stress these days, with fewer ways to connect or vent. We can't gather, we can't hug, we can't communicate with facial expressions. We can't even run to our neighbors for a quick cup of tea and a chat. We thought that if we could give you something that might help you feel a little bit less alone with your stress, that it would be useful and maybe even a pleasure. So tonight and every night each week, we are going to give you a short interview, very short, we realize your time is precious, with a generous fellow Ridgefielder who will discuss a stressor of their own and how they found it was most useful to handle it. Following the interview, we'll provide you some links with further information about the coping techniques. So if you're interested to learn more about it, you'll have a place to start.
Welcome to Stress Busters, How Ridgefield Copes, a program of Compassionate Ridgefield. With me tonight is Patricia Raneri, the principal of East Ridge Middle School. So welcome, Trish.
Well, thank you, Carol. It's really nice to be here. Hello, everyone.
So tell us about the things that you're finding stressful these days.
Well, it's a pretty long list these days, right? Just from wearing the masks, from wondering what's happening in the future, wondering what's happening with schools and our kids and our families, making sure everyone is well and healthy. So
that must be a stress that you carry with you every single day.
It is. You know, when you're a school principal, you're really invited into people's lives simply because of the role you play, and it's quite humbling to know that we're on this adventure we call life together. And so what happens with families happens with me. So I really have been worried, right? Certainly depending for people's jobs, for their children, with being at home, their mental health, and certainly seeing how I've even kind of faced stress differently in this pandemic has brought out different ways of coping for myself.
Interesting. Can you say more about that? Like, what do you find particularly stressful?
Certainly things that are stressful are things that are out of my control, right? So really being able to relax around things that are happening that we can't influence, and really being able to get centered to be able to influence the things we can and make changes. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was really good about exercising and doing all of that, and then I hurt my foot. And so then I wasn't exercising anymore.
And there goes a stress reliever that you didn't have available.
Correct. So then the eating was already happening, but that was continuing.
The COVID-19
that's right.
that we're all struggling with.
That's right. And so really looking at, okay, let's try to figure out what we can do. So one of the things that we did as a family is we had a jigsaw puzzle on the dining room table. So you'd have your cup of tea at some point during the evening and you'd go work on the puzzle for a little while. So trying to turn off the devices, that was super helpful, particularly with school going virtual and fully remote. Our children are on devices more, the adults are on devices more, and that's very tiring.
Yeah, by the evening you're tired of Zoom.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to do things that are different than that, I have found to make me feel much better, more energetic, and definitely feeling calmer and more at ease.
So tell us about the particular coping strategy that you're going to talk about today.
Well,
it's fascinating.
So I took up piano. Now I have to say, in all transparency, I played as a child when I was younger. I didn't want to practice and I quit. So a number of years ago I started...
How many times did she get sent to her room for not practicing the piano?
And I'm sure both my parents are laughing to know that I am now playing piano after all of these years. But I started up a couple of years ago and then I stopped. I had a teacher, I was taking lessons, and then I just kind of let it go. And then when the quarantine hit and we were all home, I'm looking at the piano in my house and I'm saying, I really should be playing piano. Like, I think that could be really fun. So I started out really slowly.
So you had a piano?
Yes,
Okay.
I had a piano. Yep, I have a digital piano. And so I started to play it, and I said to myself, this is so fun, and it's just relaxing, because you can't think about anything else when you play or you make a mistake.
Right.
And for me as a beginner, it's like learning a new language. So I'm learning the language of music.
Right.
I'm learning where the keys are on the piano.
And you have to stay very focused.
Very. And so playing piano was very tiring too, but in a different way. So then it got to the point where I said, I really need lessons. So I found a teacher his name is Zach, and he's out in Colorado. And he and I have virtual lessons every couple of weeks.
Really? You're doing this by Zoom?
Yes, we have Zoom lessons.
Wow.
And so we practice. I have the camera on me and the piano so he can see and hear me and give me feedback and guidance on whatever I'm playing. And I can see him because he has multiple cameras. So I can see his fingering on the keyboard. I can also see music if he wants to point something out in the actual music for
This
me.
is amazing.
Oh, it's one of the blessings of this pandemic, quite frankly, because I'm playing piano more than I ever have before. And really, I've grown as a piano player. Now, albeit I'm still very much a beginner, and the piece that I'll play for you in a little bit is one I've been working on for 5 months. So,
so do you play every day? You have a very busy job. So.
I do, and my schedule is sometimes not predictable. So I try to play at least 3 times a week. And sometimes I play for only 10 minutes. Sometimes I can play for an hour. It really depends on the schedule. But what I have found is, just like every other coping strategy that works, the more you do it, even if it's not for a really long period of time, you get benefits from it. So I try to really, if I can even play for 15, 20 minutes, more times rather than an hour. Now, people who want to become professional musicians, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
But for me, for just the enjoyment of it, I find I get the benefits of it. I find it energizes me, so when I finish, I feel more energized.
You don't feel so
when I started.
tired?
No, not at all.
Do you find that it sort of relaxes your whole body?
Oh, absolutely. And using the fingers in that way, and different part of your brain. And it's funny because as I'm working on scales, I love scales. And as a kid, I hated them. But I love them because it's really rhythmic, there's patterns, it's predictable. And so what I find that works well for a coping strategy is something that's predictable and safe. So for me, playing the piano is nice and predictable with the scales, and that is very soothing. It's almost like meditating or doing breathing exercises.
Right, it's very mindful.
Yes.
And also reminds me of, it's something you can control. You can control how much you practice, you can control what you play during practice, as opposed to all the things out there that we can't control.
Right. And one of the things with any strategies I find with stress reducing strategies, I sometimes will get upset with myself if I don't practice, or if I don't meditate, or if I don't go for that walk, because something comes up, right? And I have to remind myself it's okay, right? That it's really about, the whole point of it is the enjoyment of it.
Right.
And so if I don't do it one day, just play the next day. Just pick up the next time.
So you're also learning about self-compassion.
Absolutely.
Not being so hard on yourself because you didn't get to practice that day, that you want to keep it as something that's really a source of pleasure. And if you make it a chore, or if you get really down on yourself, then it becomes something less enjoyable.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. So you're going to play a little for us today.
Sure. Why not? Because it's only causing a little bit of stress to play in public.
about the piece. What was that?
This is called Tahitian Sunset, and I love it because it's so mellow, and it reminds me of the Broadway musical South Pacific.
Yes.
And so it's just very kind of eerie and mysterious, but soothing and relaxing.
Right.
And so
Just how you want to feel after you've been playing the piano for a little bit.
yeah. And it has some complicated little things for me in there where I have to move my hands from one end to the other. And so that's always keeping my mind going. When do I need to make that shift? But I can count on the tune to carry me through it.
And I loved how when you made a mistake, you just said, whoops, and you kept on going.
Yes.
You weren't afraid to keep on going, and you didn't get down on yourself, because playing the piano is complicated and it's hard.
It is. It is.
Wow.
But I like the fact that I'm seeing progress
Mm-hmm.
over time, similar to exercise, right? You see progress.
You
and
see your
so
growth.
I'm delighted. So what I do is I ask my family, I say, so does it sound like a song now? And if they say, yep, it's sounding like a song, I'm feeling pretty good about things.
Oh, well, good. How much did you pay your family members for that?
Oh, yes. Well, they have to listen to me practice, so there you go.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Trish, and
Oh,
we wish
thank
you
you.
well.